So as an entrepreneur, were you raised in an entrepreneurship family?
I really wasn't. And that was something that was really a learning curve for me when I started, when I started realizing that what I do could actually be monetized, things that I had learned to do from advocacy work. Um, I started working as a freelancer at first. So it wasn't really in my mind to start a business. And it was a friend who saw how successful I was kind of ramping that up so quickly. She was like, no, you really need to up your game. And we weren't even thinking about incorporating then. She just said, but go and register your business. So at first I was a freelancer for about 2 years. And then I worked we kind of had a general partnership, myself and my husband, Dave Parkinson. And then during COVID, we literally scaled up and incorporated. So, and I often talk about how, or not often, but a couple times I've mentioned that, how that was a mystery to me. The whole back end of the company is a mystery to me. I was really good at what I did. I would have probably, my comfort zone would be a freelancer forever. Because I just didn't understand the whole, and then, just all the different reporting when it comes to incorporating and all that was intimidating to me because we all don't know what we don't know. But I'm really grateful that my friend, and then more recently, my business consultant, Jay McCormick, really pushed me because she said, no, you're just up here and you're acting like you're down here. So we finally, I learned that, but no, so I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family, and I wish people were taught that more, because I think so many of us all of us were just taught to be on that employee track. And now that I am an entrepreneur, I look at that and I think, oh man, that is so limiting. And people just lock themselves into this thing thinking that's security, when in reality, it only takes one guy, one boss to pull you into his office and say, we don't need you anymore. 2 weeks, your whole life has changed. I have 38 clients. If 10 of them drop me tomorrow, I would survive. If 20 drop me tomorrow, I would survive and find while I found others, So I did not have that entrepreneurial mindset, and I'm so glad that I was pushed into it and I learned that.
So other than people in your corner, would you say that was the only thing that helped you conquer the fear of going into entrepreneurship? Because that's the main reason why most people don't, is the fear of the unknown, of the back world of business. So what would you say, other than your support that said, I'm going to do this regardless of the fear?
It's like when I suddenly had that light bulb moment, and it was 10 years after. I'm a publicist, and it was 10 years after I'd been doing press releases for things I cared about. I literally learned how to write a press release to get a message out about an issue I was working on and people that like something I actually cared about. And I was doing that for 10 years super successfully, never thinking about getting paid for it, not something I would want to get paid for the cause I was working on. And it wasn't until by the time I suddenly had that light bulb moment, wait a minute, that's something I could monetize that people would pay for. Like, I spent 10 years learning how to navigate the media. I could probably do that for businesses. And I was fully confident that I could do that. And luckily, we have the power of the internet, this screen that we all have in front of us. So by the time I thought of that, I thought, I only really need, one or two people to look at what I've done before, my successes in getting that messaging out without getting paid for it, and say, you know what, I'll pay you to do that for me. And then I've got you know what I mean? One client, then I'm doing it for real. Then I'm a business. 2 clients, now I'm going, 3. Okay, now I have the confidence. So I turned to when I had that light bulb moment, I turned to the internet to figure out, gee, how would I set that up? And I found sites like it's called Upwork now, but it was called Elance back then. It was and I think there's ones called Freelance, and similar to Fiverr, where you can, in those cases, you don't put your job up. I think in those ones, you see, it's like every time you press refresh, there's 10 new jobs, everything from translation to telemarketing to public relations to whatever. And I would, just go and see anything that I could do. I would bid low, put my compelling little pitch about myself, bid low, do amazing work until I got good results. And then that's how I, started to, I guess, get the confidence in myself to say, yep, I am a publicist as a freelancer. And then I started just reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And so I think the moment that I thought, that's monetizable, I literally just started doing it, and we all can, because I think, and I mean, unless you're going to manufacture something, or where there's definitely overhead, or something where you can't do it without a staff, then you obviously have to have some money or some investors or some. But if you're a service, like a service business, you can just do something. Don't overthink it. People sit there for 3 or 4 years and think, oh, once I save up enough money, when I have the money for this, that, and that, all you need is your computer, your internet, your brain, your strategy, one customer, start. And that's how I started, with the internet, my brain, a computer, and one person believing in me, and then another. And now I'm an international award-winning publicist, literally working across sectors, across industries, in a job that is really fun, that I developed, that I didn't go to school for, that, is a 4-year university course, but it doesn't have to be. Just do things. Show the world you can do it sometimes.
So in your process of becoming a freelancer, of course, we all make multiple mistakes, but what was one mistake you made that you learned a lot from that you would like to share with people out there who are just starting?
Yeah, I think it was a one that's kind of universal to freelancers and to people. And it wasn't just something I did badly on one day. And it wasn't even really a bad thing, because I mean, I ended up building my business on it. But I think we need to really, and it's so hard when we're in difficult times economically, but we need to really see our worth and be trust in pricing our worth, and that somebody will come for it, because a lot of times we undercut ourselves. And I did that for a long time. And my business consultant was, pounding me over the head for a long time and saying, no, seriously, look at your resume, look what people in your industry charge who have half this, resume that you do, the norm, and you're still thinking of yourself. Because I came from, I used to be a telemarketer, and I'm still thinking about like pricing like that. Well, that a little bit more and a little bit more, when I was way undercutting myself for myself. So we have to have the faith in ourselves to add a zero, and maybe another zero at the end of that price. And you know what? Every time I did that, customers would come at that rate. So you know what I mean? And you always have the right, so you can't fear. It's not going to be. I mean, obviously, if you've been starving for 6 months and you were looking for a client, and then the client comes, don't haggle over $20. Get to work and do the work and do a good job, and then that's, if you're still in a position where you need somebody else. I mean, you need clients to say you're great. You need those commendations. That's part of building your reputation and your third part, so there's a balance there. But know when you can stop that and realize that you've developed up to a certain point, and and add that zero earlier than I did. And I still do a lot of, and I still wouldn't listen to my business consultant who's like, no, you can't do anything at that price anymore, because I don't want to cut out the people who can't afford the high end PR that I could, which I do now. So I've, after long hours of thought, and I figured out what can I offer them that I know in my mind how much time it's going to take me in a month, because of relationships I've developed, because of where I know I can place them already before I even start, and then I have budget prices, literally, where I can tell someone at the outset, you can pay me under $1,000, you can pay me, a couple different price points for entrepreneurs to get their feet wet. And for that price, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, and you're going to get this. We already know that. And then you still have the rest of the month where so you don't go wrong, because that's half the price that you pay for an ad in any major media, and you have this, and you walk away with all kinds of stuff you can put on your page. So yeah, so develop that, have confidence to develop that. But you have to, so I think that number one is that balance, learning to strike that balance between wanting those clients and the fear of missing out and having them go to somebody else, and realizing, no, you know what, my price can't always depend on what I think someone else's budget's going to be.
Great. So let's talk about your business now. I don't want to mispronounce it, but Lamourie Media.
Got it. Yeah.
So tell us just a little bit about what you do, and if a client came to you, who are your clients, and what can they expect from your services?
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you briefly who they are and then what kind of the brief process how they come. So as a publicist, everyone expects, I do work with people in film and television and music and, acting and all that stuff, and authors and public speakers. That's one big part of it. And that's what people expect, right? But the other side of it is anybody, any expert, any entrepreneur, any executive. If you look at my client list right now, the people that you may not expect, right? I have a, real estate agent. I have a personal chef. I have a private investigator. I have a neuromarketing expert. I have a forensics expert. I have integrative medicine expert. I have a psychologist. I have a burnout expert. I have a personal coach. I have a diabetes expert. And these are all people that I've got, a celebrity hairstylist that I've gotten in media, from New York Times to Oprah to Oprah.com, not the TV show because it doesn't exist anymore, but Oprah.com, Reader's Digest, New York Times, The New Yorker, and beyond. I've got a list of, 20, 50, all kinds, just on the regular, and that just right across industry. So there's opportunities no matter who you are to get quoted. So when someone comes to me, a real estate agent, or if I talk to an expert, I'm like, gee, how come you're not getting quoted in media? You've been doing this for 20 years. And they're like, huh, why would media want to talk to me? Because people often think about themselves as, I'm just whatever. And it's those people on TV are different. The people that I see, reality is the people that you see on TV in your industry or in other industries, there aren't, other than actors and musicians, obviously. The only reason they're there and you're not is not because the media looked far and wide for the best in their field, or no, it's because they had a publicist putting them up in front there. They suggested a story, so they're the star of the story, along those, that kind of thing. So my job is to find opportunities, public opportunities, whether it's media, interviews, podcast, meeting, radio, television, newspaper, magazines, whether it's podcasts, which are absolutely fantastic. They're not, I've been telling clients now, they're not less than other media. They're a new media, and they hit all kinds of points. I always just thought of them as media because I'm a media girl. And then when I started doing them as a business to business service provider, oh my God, I see, and I don't even do advertising, but I see it's giant marketing, and it's insane networking these days. Like, I have had podcasters hire me, and I wasn't even looking for that, right? I've had podcasters recommend me. I've had listeners hire me. So there's a huge, when, especially the business right now, as we're all sitting there, this screen in front of us, trying to figure out how to navigate this new world and what we can do. And, I guess my message is a particularly good one for people that want to be heard, and podcasters want to be, obviously they're there because they want to elevate their businesses and such. But for anybody doing B2B stuff, it's, doing podcasts, being a guest on them, having your name, when you search your name, 20 guest appearances come up for podcasts. That's gold. That's credibility gold that brings you more customers. It impresses investors, gives you the corner office. It gives you the raise if you're on the corporate track. So it's and it's something that people really don't think of. So when they come to me, we talk. First of all, send me any business bio that you already have. I'm gonna make it more compelling. I'm gonna make it punchy. I'm gonna make it like a pitch. I'm gonna prepare it. So I'm gonna send it to the number one. We're gonna write media and press releases and all that, and introduce you to all the media in your area, and think of we'll think of an angle that makes you relevant. You're the expert in this, and this is what you're saying about whatever topical thing. And then I'm gonna be combing all these opportunities, looking to see, all these different sources that publicists have, like Help a Reporter Out and Source Bottle and all kinds of things, where we look to see what reporters are going to be writing stories about, and they're looking for sources so we can get our client in there. I look for awards opportunities. Everyone knows about the awards in their industry, but I don't care who you are. There's a bunch of awards outside of the industry that you can qualify. If you're a woman, there's a ton of things on. And I didn't realize this till I got the Woman of Inspiration. And I started thinking, Jesus, I was like, what kind of other awards are there? And I started Googling things like that: Women of Inspiration, Women of Influence. There are so many on international levels. Any woman in any industry, if she's listening right now, there's one by L'Oreal. I don't know anything about it other than it's some big prize, cash prize, and they take you to France in a normal non-COVID. I don't know what they're doing right now. It's probably all virtual, but they take you to France, they do all that. And it's, and it's open to women around the world, across industries, 90% of us don't know about that. Who knows about it? These elite few people that know about it, and they all get. So no, I get them in the mix. I get my clients noticed. I get them on stages, build up, opportunities for them. So basically, I open up the world, by presenting them. I always say elevating and celebrating what they're doing. No matter what it is, they're the celebrity real estate agent now. They're the celebrity hairstylist. They're, because I'm going to get them quoted in the media. I'm going to get them, all those things to support that claim.
Cool.
It's fun. Every hit is like, oh, I got you in Reader's Digest, and I'm waiting for them to wake up. It's 2 a.m, and I get the yes from the reporter, and I'm waiting for the client to wake up so I can jump up and down along with them.
So, out of all the people I've interviewed, doing my YouTube shows, I think you're the only one who could say that the pandemic actually helped you more, because prior to the pandemic, even though they did have video interviews, like if you were a musician, you went to California and you went on that California show, and then you had to get on the plane and go to New York and do that New York show, and then you had to go to this place. Now they don't want you to move, they want you to stay home. So now not only do you have more, you don't have to go anywhere, you have more access not only in your own country, but across the world. You can do interviews everywhere. So was that the first thing you saw, was like, wow, were you first scared, or did you realize this is better now?
It was terrifying. Casey, it was terrifying at first because I lost probably about 80% of my business, because at that point I had a lot of stuff planned for the year, like the previous year, travel. I was supposed to be on a reality TV show, me and my husband playing the, who we are, the PR people. There's a new show that we're going to have 6 different kinds of bands, like different genres, traveling on a bus across the 6 cities across the U.S. And they said, oh, you guys are really TV-ish. They wanted us to come and just be ourselves, say to the bands what we would do normally to kind of give an insight on that side. And so we were supposed to be traveling, and there was all this, so everything that we had planned, all of a sudden we were like, okay, that's not happening. Now there was a festival, like festival in Kansas City I was supposed to be running, and I was supposed to have a little office there, and oh my gosh. So like everybody else, for the first 2 weeks, I was like this, staring at the computer, like listening, watching all the leaders stateside, so-called leaders, state crazy ones, and everybody, see what they're all saying about the pandemic. And then I realized, okay, stop. If I've lost 80% of my business, I still have 20%. And instead of sitting here staring at the TV and freaking out, I should go back and just do the 20%. And as soon as I started doing that, then I started thinking first, okay, well, I should reach out to some authors, because, we can't just watch Netflix all the time. Maybe this will be a good time to promote the authors. So, then one led to another on that. Then all of a sudden, I guess people are starting to, as they lost their jobs, they're looking for, or doing small things with their business, or pivoting their business, or they needed to get messaging out. So I was able, luckily, to pivot to, a whole bunch of other things that still needed messaging. So, yeah, I've been lucky. I'm like, the thing is, the reason I'm good at my job, Casey, is because I'm strategic. And I'm smart, and I just don't stop. You know what I mean? Like, and I do that for all my clients. So if there's going to be a wall, I'm going to find a way. If I can't smash it down, I'm going to find a way to go under it, over it, whatever. So what I've been doing, that's the way you got to do. And what I've been doing during COVID, this is how I discovered the power of podcast myself, because normally I'm just booking my clients on things. But in slow moments, once I joined some of these podcast matchup services for my clients, I started to see some, entrepreneur shows. I'm like, geez, I have a really good message for entrepreneurs. Why don't I just pitch myself to 1 or 2 and go on? And I started to see, well, it's really effective. It's really fun. It's nice to have these little videos that I can point to people and say, hey, there, you can see what I do, listen to them. And, anyway, ultimately now, like I said, I've literally had probably 200 by now that I booked for between last, July when I started, but primarily between October and, so I do maybe 4 hours a week of this, and I'm a highly scheduled, super busy person who my time is valuable. But I find it's worth it. It's really worth it for so many different reasons. And now you Google my name, you don't just have all this work I've done before, all the articles I've written. Now if you Google my name, literally 100 things come up that I didn't have to produce, fully produced, nice things with my name, speaking to, so that is gold, I can tell you, as a publicist, not to mention all the connections that you make as a result. So it's definitely, like I've found ways. So in the end, yes, And so many more people are doing podcasts now, and people are listening. So many more people are listening to podcasts and taking them seriously. It actually is a fifth media now. It's not just like a junior. It's literally radio, television, newspapers, magazines, podcasts. That's all equal. They're all different, and they're all equal. And I pitch my clients to all of them. And even for anybody listening, whether entrepreneur or podcaster or yourself, it doesn't really even matter as long as it's well produced and professionally done. It doesn't really matter if it's got 500,000, top 40, iTunes, whatever, or if it's just a podcast just starting out. This is important when you're thinking about developing your thought leadership. It doesn't matter how many views they have. It doesn't matter how many listeners they have, because number one, the first time listener, it doesn't really matter who's listening when you first upload it. They live online forever, right? So number one, it continues to exist forever. And number two, as an entrepreneur or a business person, it's funny because I was on a podcast the other day, and the podcaster had recently interviewed the founder of Matchmaker, on his podcast. And for those who don't know, Matchmaker is a podcast service hooking up, high profile guests, actually just guests and podcasters, right? And the founder of Matchmaker, was saying that when people say to him, oh, well, it's only a small podcast, why should you go on one that only has, however many listeners? And the founder of Matchmaker said, if you're a business owner and somebody said, hey, I have a stage in your town, I'm doing an event and I'm going to have 50 people at it, and I'm going to give you you can come up for 5 minutes and talk about your business. Would you do it? Of course you would. Almost every entrepreneur would. So why different? Why wouldn't you go on a podcast and speak just to 50 or whatever? Even, you know what I mean? Even if it's just that 50, which is what you're thinking, even though later what you don't realize is it's much more than that 50, because it's the credibility of putting it on your webpage, where it doesn't matter how many people listen to it, but it's that third party credibility that somebody else interviewed you, and then you also, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of components to it that people don't realize that are important, and it's worth doing.
Awesome. So I have one more question for you. This is my fun question I like to ask people, off the subject somewhat, and it might make you think a bit. But if there is an entrepreneur out there that has inspired you, whether they be dead or alive, and you have the chance to have a conversation and maybe lunch with them, who would this entrepreneur be?
Oh, an entrepreneur, eh? That's funny, because I never really was super business focused. Like, I never grew up idolizing business people or anything, It was more like activists, John Lennon. So, but I can say, and I'm gonna say, I have to say this is a client of mine, but that's not why I'm saying this, because I have 40 clients and I've had hundreds, But when you ask me that question, the first thing that came to my mind is Lou Bayer, who she's not even, she's a current, she comes back and forth, she's not even a current client. This is not a paid promotion. She wrote a book though, and she was one of my first clients when I was still a freelancer. And she wrote a book called The 30% Solution. And it's about, and because she's a civility expert, which you're like, what? A what? But she speaks to businesses for thousands of dollars an afternoon about how civility, which is much more than being nice, actually affects the bottom line in terms of employee retention, in terms of customer retention. And her book is a 30% solution, where she shows that it's actually affects the bottom line by 30%, hard business to soft skills, which is something I didn't know. So that was interesting to work on, just to learn that. And then also, that was, also she was a really strong example of a really powerful corporate businesswoman with heart, who led with, just like heart-centered, and all the work that she's done on a global level and all that, in a completely different industry from mine. But I've been watching that over the years and seeing how she's developed. And, so the first person, she wasn't a mentor, she was a client, but we've worked together in different ways. And now she's publishing my first book. And so the first person that I thought of, so she's helped to guide me. And actually she helped me do my first logo now that I think about it, because she was my client, as a freelancer. So she sort of helped me professionalize at the same time as I was helping build her public image, now that I look back on it. So I guess Lou Bayer, civility experts, is my answer for a bunch of reasons. Good question.